Hello and welcome to Keith's channel. Today I want to talk about the US-China relationship currently and how it will progress from this point. As we all know, the relationship is in dire straits currently. There are trade tariffs and China is being blamed for COVID, plus there are tensions in the South China Sea. First, let's talk about COVID. Is USA right in blaming China? Currently, as we all know, there is no evidence whatsoever that the virus leaked out from Wuhan's biolab, while there is overwhelming probability that it came from an animal from the wildlife market in China. China was in the dark about the virus back in December, and only in late January did they lock down Wuhan when the picture became clearer. One thing for sure, everyone was asking questions in January, and the Chinese authorities were overwhelmed by the medical demands of COVID patients. There is a Taiwanese inquiry which is now being played up by the USA. But that query is not the only one. There were plenty of many others from other countries asking for more information. So we know that the Taiwanese query is nothing more than a perfunctory query among many others on the Chinese medical situation. We must not read too much into it. Furthermore, the recent study on traffic and search data spike is very irresponsible, because by that logic, the virus also should have emerged back in April, when there is also a spike in traffic and search data. All this smacks of anti-China bias. I believe it's safe to say China did their best they could with the limited information they had at the time. USA's reckoning for China is simply unreasonable based on COVID. That doesn't stop them from threatening China with a reckoning though, which I believe the Chinese will have to pay some lip service to and grant them some trade favors. Next, we look at the trade frictions. Many of the clauses of the trade deal merely imposes an enforcement mechanism on China to fulfill its trade obligations already promised under the WTO rules. The fact that some media in China is disgruntled and complaining that the USA won too much in the trade deal is unjustified. China should always have been a responsible trade partner that produces win-win situations for their trade partners. Therefore, I think we can agree that the USA did the right thing with the trade deal. It's fair, China has been having a free pass for many years. Or as China would put it, beating the USA. But now, the tables are turned and Trump is beating China on trade. The problem lies with the lack of compliance by China using COVID as an excuse. It is true that the trade deal allows China to hold back on fulfilling the trade agreement if extraordinary circumstances presented itself. Like COVID, which I agree is an extraordinary circumstances. But with COVID happening right after the trade deal was signed, it's really bad timing. USA farmers have not even finished celebrating before the Chinese start wavering on their side of the deal. USA has every right to be peeved at China. The question though is, how should USA proceed with the trade deal enforcement? I think USA can get China to fulfill their side of the deal without too much pushback from China. Since I think China is more desperate to restart their economy after the COVID shutdown. So I think this can be resolved peacefully without another few more years of trade war. So on this issue, I think we can be rest assured. Lastly, there is the South China Sea issue. This issue is complex, potentially a flashpoint, and involves many parties. It is my belief this issue can be solved by one word: cooperation. This is the most peaceful approach to South China Sea. China and all other claimants of South China Sea should cooperate and develop the resource there jointly without war or threat. Something like joint sovereignty. Failing to do so would drag USA and its allies into confrontation with China over South China Sea. After all, it's just a few big pieces of rocks. Everyone is just eyeing the resources there. There has been historically no conflict in South China Sea over those few pieces of rocks. Furthermore, China has never threatened the freedom of navigation of trade vessels in the South China Sea. I mean, seriously, no one realistically believes China would impose a toll or something like that on trade traffic in South China Sea. These posturings are just sentiment, pride and face issue. China without doubt would respect the freedom of navigation of trade vessels in the South China Sea. So let's all take a step back. Take a good breath and give room to all claimants to work out their differences without USA interference. Philippines and China had something going, peaceful resolution, so that should be good. That should be good. We must all remember the greatest threat to humanity worldwide currently is a war between China and USA, and this should be avoided at all costs, especially when it concerns just a few pieces of lousy rocks. So where do we go now with the USA-China relationship? Pompeo and a high-ranking Chinese delegation is talking right now. The most pressing issue for them is how to proceed with this preeminent and profitable partnership of USA and China. That the relationship has been mutually beneficial is undisputed even by Trump. Most of the unfairness Trump rails against is more rhetoric than reality. I believe Trump will extract further concessions from China on trade in return for a hands-off approach to Hong Kong, as long as American interest in Hong Kong is safeguarded. Most importantly, once November election is over, I believe USA-China relationship will be better once more. So let us have a toast to a long and beneficial, mutually beneficial relationship between USA and China. Okay, that's it for today. If you like what you see, please click subscribe. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Goodbye.